Right now on Tech Radio, would you buy a second-hand phone?
Hi, I'm Artemis. I am a computer-generated AI voice, and you're listening to Tech Radio.
Every week online and on air with RT Radio, we bring you the latest in tech from Ireland and across the world. You're welcome to episode 1041, looking back on the 7 biggest stories of the week, including how Ireland could be bringing an end to adult entertainment online. We have more AI agents to scare you with for Halloween, and artists say no to using their work as training data. Plus, we have a preview of Beta Festival with artists Suzanne Treister and Patricia Dominguez. Let's get to it.
From techcentral.ie, this is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
I'm Dusty. Joining me as always, Niall Kitson. Niall, the big question, a second-hand phone, would you buy one?
Well, do you know what? I have personal investment in this because during the week, I finally put my foot down. I discovered that my tablet was no longer fit for purpose. And I was like, okay, how much money do I have? I do not have big bucks. And I've got some credit built up with a secondhand electronics store. So I said, right, I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to buy something of, high value that probably won't, I know for a fact, isn't going to last more than one more generation of operating system update. Right. Mm-hmm. So I was looking for an iPad, and I know with what I'm getting that iOS 18 is probably going to be the ceiling of its capabilities. But you know what do I actually use my iPad for? So I did a little bit of an audit and decided that, I don't need to go above iOS 18. I'm quite comfortable using a secondhand device. And I was able to find one for a quarter of the price of what I would have paid for a new one.
Ooh, a quarter. And these things go for roughly $1,000. So you're talking about maybe 250 around that mark. Wow. Yeah.
So factoring in the credit that I had already, I was like, okay, grand, effectively free iPad. I'll take it. It's an upgrade on what I'm using at the moment. So I got myself a first generation iPad Pro. I went for one with a 9.7 inch screen. Which actually means it will fit my existing iPad dock and keyboard. Now, here's the thing I learned in doing the shop around. If you use one of these things already, if you use a Folio keyboard, make sure before you make a purchase of the actual device that you can get the keyboard to go with it. Because I discovered that the market for these things generally cuts off probably the year after something gets released, right? So if you've bought a device that maybe is a couple of years old, make sure you can actually get a case that will fit it and work with it. There you go. Sage advice.
Sage advice.
Tech Radio.
The whole reason we're talking about secondhand things is that a survey was released this week by a company called Swappy, who are very kind of back market, refurbed, all those kind of places. And they actually have come up with a stat. I don't know how, but I like it. They said that in Europe, X percentage of phones are pre-loved.
Yeah, they're looking at 10% of the market will be pre-loved, of which they reckon about a quarter will be dedicated to iPhones. Just iPhones.
Well, okay.
Kind of
I think Swappy specialise in iPhones.
Yeah. And we've got a piece up on Tech Central about it. So that equivalent, that's basically a market of 15 billion euros. I mean, that's incredible to be able to dip into and get any sort of slice out of. One thing that I noticed about going into the pre-loved stores was there's brands out there that you're not getting in your traditional operators stores. Like you're getting, like there was a few sort of, I'm just going to call them white label because they weren't particularly interesting, but there's some really interesting design work going on out there as well. So if you're in the mood to try something that's a little bit left field, have a look at the pre-loved market and see what brands and what models are being sold. I think you might surprise yourself.
Absolutely. I've bought a couple of things from back market and I've been very happy with, I would say, all of them.
Yeah.
And my other little tip and it's not quite pre-loved, but it is a second-hand market. If you're buying stuff on Amazon, occasionally you will see stuff from the Amazon warehouse, which is essentially stuff that people have returned. And you can get quite a nice little discount on a bit of tech. And I've done that with things that aren't... I actually did it with a microphone once, right? The microphone cost... it was somewhere 600-700 quid or something like that, right? And it had been returned, and for whatever reason they were flogging it for like 400. It was nearly half price. Wow. And that included the VAT. All right, so by the time I kind of took the discount and then subtracted the VAT, I was getting a huge lump of money, and the thing was perfect. It had been opened, obviously, had been used, and somebody just kind of went, no, not for me, or I don't like the sound, and sent it back. And I've done those things before with little radios or whatever that I would be buying, or bits of computer equipment, and they all work perfectly. So yeah, I would definitely do that. But so listen, best of luck with your new tablet, my man. Are you going to be spending a lot of time on that tablet watching porn? Because if you are, I might have some bad news for you.
Oh, shucks.
There's a non-committal answer.
Okay, right. What's the, inverted commas, bad news?
Here we go. Well, it's the Commission Man have had their online safety code adopted. Now, this is kind of important because what it does is the whole idea is to protect people, particularly children, to sexual content, bullying, eating disorders, self-harm, suicide, incitement to hatred. All that kind of stuff is not allowed on video sharing platforms in particular, all right? Or platforms where you can share video would be a better way of putting it, all right? So obviously you're thinking YouTube, but that also includes like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Udemy, would you believe? LinkedIn, X, Pinterest, Tumblr, and Reddit are all included there. Snapchat, not. Because the thing that all of those 10 companies have is that their European HQ is in Ireland. So the online safety code is a thing that applies to Ireland, but because all of these huge tech giants have got their headquarters here, it will apply to them.
Where's Snap? Are they in the Netherlands? I think they might be in the Netherlands. Anyway.
Neither know nor care. And if they are to... If they are to break the online safety code, they could face fines of up to 20 million, which is like saying, okay, curse jar money for you or I. Stick €1 in the jar if you say bum or whatever it happens to be.
Well, I mean, this is Commission Man is basically the state body that has been tasked with implementing and policing the Digital Services Act in Ireland. So it was... help me out here in terms of the official bodies, because they were the Broadcasting Authority of Ireland. So Commission Man is sort of a recognition that broadcasting isn't necessarily where people get all their multimedia content from. It's sort of a reinvention, isn't it? Yes,
it's like radio, television, and internet.
Yeah. Okay.
If you want to put it that way. So it's all kind of like and because radio, television is all digital and online is all digital, you call it any digital media, boom, they're all over it. I don't think I think the rules might apply to newspapers. I'm not entirely sure actually, because they will be digital. But anyway, newspapers are generally respectful anyway. So,
and they've got the press council to worry about as well.
The new online safety code that is being introduced by Commission Man, obviously to keep children away from porn and stuff like that. But how do you do that? And here's the big question, right? Age verification.
Right.
So you kind of think to yourself, all right, cool, you're a 13-year-old, you need to prove that you're over 18 or you can't access this content. Okay, so you might do something like, you have to give a credit card. Or you have to upload your driver's license or your passport to prove that you are over 18 years of age. However, and you kind of, when you're thinking about that from a kid's point of view, you go, yay, cool, grand, that's sensible. And so it is, right? But what about if you are like, kind of a guy or a lady, mid-20s, and you kind of go, well, I don't particularly want, to be associated with what it is exactly that I'm watching online. How are they going to do the age verification? That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, the bit of discretion that people do like with these things. Does that mean you get rid of that completely? Does that mean you have to declare to all and sundry where your kinks reside?
Mm-hmm. So what's interesting about the code that they've released, and I'll give you section 12, subsection 10, my friend, Your Honour, which says that the age assurance measure, which we've seen in many alcohol sites, you know, I got the Heineken or Smirnoff or whoever, and it's going, are you over 18? And your little 8-year-old is going, yep.
Yeah.
That will not count. An age assurance measure will not solely be effective measure for purposes of this section. So the wording says.
It's like that scene in Superbad where Fogel goes into the off license with his fake ID where his name is now McLovin. Yeah. Sure, whatever. It looks like a driver's license. Fine.
I saw a great video the other day. It was just a guy working in Tesco or whatever. He says, this happens to me every day and it drives me nuts. You know, a guy walking in, full beard, the whole thing. It's kind of like, you know, he wants to buy a beer and your man kind of goes, he says, okay, yeah, have you got ID? And he goes, yeah, sure. He hands him over his thing and your man goes laughing. He goes, I can't sell you the beer. And he's going, why not? And he goes, you're not over 18. And he goes, yes, I am. And he goes, it says here in your driver's license, you were born in 2006. And your man's going, yeah, that was 18 years ago. And the guy, the cashier, is obviously older, is going, oh my God, 2006 was 18 years ago.
Oh, we're all falling into that trap, Dusty.
So I thought that was funny. I'm going to be interested to see what happens in the online safety code. Now, the whole porn thing, I'm just trying to get people's attention or to stir it up a little bit. But it is a question. It's kind of like, you know, well, how do you verify yourself online without actually personally identifying yourself? I think that's a big question. And they've done this in the States with one of the, I can't remember the name of it, but anyway, one of the porn websites. And they have withdrawn their servers from certain American states where this has been enforced or a similar rule has been enforced. And it's just not available. I'm sure people find ways around it, VPNs and whatever. But anyway, the fact that we're doing it here in Ireland is just interesting. We'll keep an eye on it. What else we got going on in the news? We've got a whole load of AI stories, very interesting AI stories to go with movie studios and electric car companies. Tell me more.
Yeah. Well, let's start with Elon Musk Corner because we can't go a week without talking about something the man has done. Here we go. Right. Last week, we talked about the cyber taxi reveal and how everybody was a little bit like, well, this is quite impressive. Now, online, there was a little bit of buzz about where a lot of the new raft of Tesla vehicle designs have actually come from. I won't go too far into the minutiae of it, but let's just say it's possible Tesla isn't as innovative a company as you might think. And to which Elon Musk has been accused of using an image from Blade Runner 2049 in the promotion of the cyber taxi.
Oh, did they ask? Did they ask beforehand for permission?
No, of course they didn't. Of course they didn't. We're still in the ask for forgiveness, not permission stage in AI. Or did I get that the wrong way around? Anyway, ask for forgiveness, not permission. So there was no outright denial of, hey, our vision just happened to coincide with yours, or, these were design decisions we had to make on the basis of the specs that we, had to deliver in a vehicle, the questions we had to answer when we were putting this thing together. Instead, Musk came out and said, no, it was a terrible movie.
As in, I wouldn't be bothered ripping it off. It was a terrible movie. It actually was quite a good movie. Yeah, but anyway, that's all. That's all personal stuff.
Talk about a non-apology.
Stop. But we've also had movie stars and singers and stuff like that protesting about the dangers of AI. What have they been saying?
Yeah, well, this was a petition that has been signed by Tom York, Julianne Moore, also ABBA are in there now as well. It just seems to be a list that's growing by the day. A very simple open letter. I'll read it out because it's only one line. The unlicensed use of creative works for training generative AI is a major unjust threat to the livelihoods of the people behind those works and must not be permitted. Fairly simple and succinct statement. You seem unconvinced.
No, I think it's very interesting because if you imagine that an AI imagine an AI on one hand and a human being on the other, okay? Both are looking at a creative work and both are learning from it in that they are making their own decisions about how this was put together or how colors were used or how a photo was framed or how the words were placed in a sentence and all that kind of stuff. Okay. There's nobody saying, because I was kind of thinking like, what if an AI is training off this is like having Tom York teaching AI how to write a song or Julianne Moore teaching AI how to act, but it's not. Okay. The AI or the human being is literally just looking at the work and learning itself or ourselves from it. And I'm sure you as a journalist, when you were starting off, you were reading other opinions. There were certain people's styles that you liked and you would have incorporated some of that into your own thing. I would be the same with other people that I would have heard on the radio and I would have liked their style and incorporated certain things into the way I do things today. So it's kind of like, If they were taking it and reselling it, that's wrong. Okay. If Tom York was sitting down and teaching the AI how to write a really killer song, and then that was being put out into the world for free, therefore affecting Tom York's ability to make money, well, yeah, maybe. But just an AI sitting down and watching and going, oh, that's interesting what they did there. All right. Same as a human being would do. So that's why I'm kind of like wondering, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, here's the thing though, right? Any artist or, as journalists, as content creators, we sit down and we know what the contract with our audience is going to be. We know what the contract with our sponsors is going to be. There is going to be a very simple exchange of products and services, and there might be somebody supporting us in how we do it, right? Our relationship is to the audience, occasionally to sponsors as well, but the sponsor doesn't define what we get to do. What is happening with the use of training data in AI is that another party has entered that agreement, that relationship, unsolicited, and is using the product that we built for a specific purpose for something else that will make them an awful lot of money that we don't get a cut off, nor do we get to say, do you know what? I mean, that's fine. You guys do you, but we'd rather not be part of this project.
How do you know that they're going to make an awful lot of money?
Of course they're going to make a lot of money. I mean,
it's the same thing as me. Here? It's the same thing as me as studying everything that One Direction did and then starting my own boy band.
I think you'd be excellent.
It doesn't mean that I'm going to make a whole lot of money.
I think your cardio mightn't be quite up to snuff, but I mean,
maybe not. But I think what they should be. See, that letter is nice. Okay. It's kind of like, it's very succinct and it's just saying, using our creative works without permission to do should not be permitted. And I think, that's a very reasonable request. But I think what they need to be able to say, because I was thinking, what's the solution? And I think the solution may be that we have to change the copyright laws, okay, to include artificial intelligence.
Yeah. Interesting that you raised that point, because indeed Penguin Random House, one of the big four publishers, used to be big five, but then Penguin Random House
bought Random House. Oh, go on.
There you go. And they have inserted I think it's just a line into their copyright page saying, that we're not permitting use of this. for AI training purposes. It's important to at least make the stand on it. I mean, when I was trying to think of, what was the last big change that really affected artists and how they approached their work and how they considered how they were going to make money from their work. And I was brought back to Pirate Bay Napster days, and in particular, the ad Lars Ulrich from Metallica did for MTV, I think, about Napster, and sort of explaining the concept of file sharing. That it's not that you have not bought an album to support my work; it's that you have shared a file with a friend. And the ad basically goes, oh, so does that mean I get to take your computer because then you're just sharing it with me? I think it ramps upwards to Lars stealing the guy's girlfriend. Just sharing.
Huge difference between a computer and a girlfriend. However, anyway, listen, that's the conversation that will roll on and on and on, but it is something that will have to be sorted. And it's like everything else, as we've often said, when the internet suddenly became popular for whatever reason, Netscape probably, I think it was, and the launch of the World Wide Web back in the mid-90s and stuff like that, there were a whole ton of issues to be sorted out then, which have been and have made the online space a lot more safe these days. This is something that will be sorted out, I'm sure, in the next 10 years. Next story, a bit of a weird one. You know that I like spacey stories.
You do.
There's a company called Opteron, all right? Really weird set of human beings, but they're doing something very interesting, okay? They're looking at insect brains. This is their thing, all right? Now, I don't know if you've ever seen a whole load of ants, okay? And you know the way they do little ant train along the path, and they are literally, I mean, it's quite, they talk about the colonies and how ants are uber intelligent because there's millions of them working together in a coordinated manner. How do ants do this? Do you know, how do they know? Well, send 100,000 ants down there, collect all of the breadcrumbs, wheel them all back up here and do whatever it is that ants do with the things. It's the same with the bees. Bees going around. I mean, how do they know where the pollen is? How do they know which one to do? And then when they get it, how do they navigate their way back specifically to where the honey thingy is? There's a word for it and I can't think of it. Anyways.
The hive.
Thank you very much. How do you know where the hive is and stuff like that? So this is what Opteron study, all right? But what they're doing, this is amazing. This is the really nerdy bit. Okay, you're going to love this, right? They are reverse engineering those insect brains and then applying it to artificial intelligence and to technology in order to create energy efficient, lightweight, tech things that require no training. All right. So the example that they have announced this week is that they are teaming up with Airbus and the European Space Agency, who are planning on going to Mars themselves, and they're going to send a Mars rover. And what they want to do is they want to have their reverse engineered insect brain put into the Mars rover because it is energy efficient, it's lightweight, and it doesn't need any training. And the Mars rover will literally be able to wander around Mars, learning as it goes.
Thinking like ants.
Thinking like ants or bees. It's like, boom.
Think.
Listen, I'm going to leave that thought sitting in your head. Something almost... I'm going to be very sarcastic now with our friends at Microsoft. Almost as clever with Microsoft this week is they are introducing AI employees that can handle client queries. All right.
Oh, this is related to the new wave of AI agents, isn't it?
Yeah. It's all Copilot and whatever. All right. Basically, what they're doing is they're building an agent to process a new client who can carry out inquiries, so that if somebody's on a website, basically it's an AI chatbot. We've had these forever. Well, it seems like forever. We've had them more than 12 months, i.e. we've had them forever in tech world. And you can tell straight away when you're talking to a tech bot. And there's I was looking at a company maybe 6 months ago, I think, Chatbase they're called, right? And essentially what you do is you feed into Chatbase your like your company documents and your how-tos and the way a product works and your opening hours and prices for things, whatever information you want to put in there, right? And then you are able to connect Chatbase to a little AI talk thing on your website, and punters can come in and go, what time you open on Tuesday? Or where are you? Or what kind of a plug do I need for such and such a thing? And it's able to just look up the information you give it and to give it to the punter. And Microsoft has just announced they're about to do the very same thing. Yippity-doo-da-day. Well done. Well, congratulations, Microsoft.
In a slightly more personable way, though.
Oh, what have I missed?
Well, I mean, the whole point of these agented AIs is that they give the illusion of dealing with an actual person.
Oof.
It's
Danger.
like there's a voice. You can add and subtract what options you want the agent to be able to do. Mm-hmm. And very importantly, they can be developed very quickly with either low no code, no code development. So you basically specify what you want your bot to be able to do, and you can just drag and drop those functions. So you don't need to employ a developer to go and create one of these for you. And we are seeing people literally writing down what they want bots to do and putting a bot together and have something ready for deployment by the end of the day. After, everything,
Yeah.
So this is kind of the future. I mean, previously bots were very labor intensive, required a lot of specialist skills, and were pretty effective at Q&A with a limited knowledge base. Now we're getting bots that you can hold conversations with, and know pretty much the same amount about a business as somebody in a call center.
Yep.
So that's where the difference is. And if you've got something that performs as well as someone and costs an awful lot less, what do you think's going to happen?
There you go. And then more and more people get used to it. I mean, those automated chatbots are all over the place online at the moment. And I can almost always tell. I was having a problem with Amazon. I wasn't able to order something. They wouldn't deliver to Ireland. They deliver to anywhere else in the UK or across Europe or the world, not to Ireland for whatever reason. It was really annoying me. So I got onto the chatbot and halfway through I got, this is a bloody chatbot. But then they just said something that I went, oh no, it's not. It's an actual human being. Who knows? Or maybe it was a really good...
Everything that I get these days across my desk, I just assume is AI generated. In years past, I assumed everything was mass sent, and anything that sounded personalized was purely by accident. Yeah. Now I assume everything is written by AI.
Wow. I assume that everything is not true. That's my thing.
You never have.
If I get a message from the bank, I go, oh, really?
Oh, really? And who are you?
Exactly. So it's kind of like, you check the email address, you look at the actual headers to see where the email came from, all kinds of stuff so no, I'm very, very suspicious of things. However, listen, last story, and this is not really the last of 7, but it's more just a note that next month in Cork, we have Space Fest is going to be kicking off. 2 events on particular, which I like the sound of. One is a tour of the National Space Centre in Middleton. And if I'm not mistaken, we spoke to a chap who was involved in the National Space Centre and the big dish.
That's right.
Down there. Anyway, so you and the other event is it's called Champagne Supernova. Well done, riding on the old Oasis popularity thing this year. It's a kind of a more artsy kind of a thing where they're painting spacescapes is probably the best way I can put it. Anyway, a load of really interesting events are going to be happening from the 10th of November, and spacefest.ie is the address to check out all the details. But for now,
nestled within Science Week.
There you go. Very convenient, Tom. Niall, listen, thank you for keeping us up to date with all the news.
From techcentral.ie, this is the award-nominated Tech Radio from techcentral.ie.
Art Tech is returning to Dublin on the 1st of November with Beta Festival. This year is all about exploring AI, automated systems, and the politics of resistance in an algorithmic age. There's a packed schedule of events, including a 2-day conference, exhibitions, events and performances all across Dublin City. In particular, the Digital Hub will host an exhibition entitled Unsettling the Algorithm, featuring Irish and international artists. Suzanne Treister and Patricia Dominguez spoke to Niall Kitson about their contribution, which is called The Museum of Ethics and Interplanetary Technologies, a Dowsing Poster. They shared their experience at CERN and some thoughts on ChatGPT and the future of art.
Very often a collaboration comes about as a result of shared interests and serendipity. I think that applies in this case. Susie, how did you come to meet Patricia?
I first met Patri in 2022. We were both invited to Denmark, to a small town called Holbæk, to paint a mural as part of a festival there. And we were staying in the same hotel, next door rooms, and we became really good friends over that week. And after that, we kept in touch quite a lot. We were really interested in a lot of things to do with plants, I think, together. I think Patricia mentioned to me at first, she really liked my HFT, the Gardener project, which had a lot to do with psychoactive plants. And she's very interested in these plants as well. And she has a thing called Studio Vegalista. And so basically, we had a lot of connections with the way that art and plants and altered states and ideas of better futures and things kind of coexisted in our work. And then a couple of years ago, maybe it was a year ago, we were both invited to work together on a project for Transmediale in Berlin. And that's when we made our first collaborative work.
Did working with a collaborator who was also a friend change how you work?
So, I mean, I have done lots of collaborative things before, but maybe not quite so closely on one specific work with one person. So I think it started off because I think we were going to make a poster, and I think we wanted this poster to do something, not just to be a poster. And so I'd had an image of a museum I'd invented called the Museum of Ethics and Interplanetary Technologies. And we started talking about how to possibly invent some technologies that might be in that museum that could be really positive technologies for the world rather than negative ones. And so we decided to maybe invent about 3 of these technologies each, and that we would make drawings of them, and that we would compile those drawings somehow into the poster. And then I think Patri had the idea that we would make like a dowsing. It would become a dowsing poster, that we would arrange these new amazing technologies around the edge, and in the center we'd have a dowsing wheel where there would be all kinds of outcomes, some really different positive psychological and physical outcomes for individuals and for the world, that would come out of where your dowsing pendulum landed on this poster. And so then we set about making a list of we had to come up with about 30 things each that would be these outcomes. And then we designed the whole wheel side of the poster with our watercolors of these technologies and the wheel in the middle. And then on the front of the poster, Patricia had this amazing photograph of her grandmother with the petroglyphs in the Atacama Desert that are near where her family used to live. And we positioned this museum of mine in that geographical space, in the space of the photograph, in fact.
Patricia, this piece centers around 6 technologies. What are they?
Sure. See, with Susie, we sit down and really make, we made an exercise of imagining like the most healing technologies that we could ever imagine as a possibility, like as artistic possibility. So I think they work as a spell, as a possibility to, like an invocation. So I will read them. So it will be unlimited interplanetary energy sources through dark matter and dark energy invocations. Technology to activate unused and dormant cells in the brain. Decodification key to the languages of the cosmos. Technology for distributing the most healing plants around the universe between civilizations. Ethical risk assessment technology for intergalactic welfare. Interplanetary species empathy exchange technology for experiencing each other's position.
You're talking about healing technologies. That implies something of an optimistic view of the future, but is that right?
Personally, my view of the future, I'm very worried. I think it's very negative. I think we are in a real big crisis of imagining new possibilities because we are living in this neoliberal capitalist warfare system. And I think we're so stuck with our limited thinking about like technology and how technology is used. And I think technology at the end is a projection of ourselves. Like a plant is a technology, a stone. Now we have drone technology with, the genocide that is going on now. So I think it's like, for us with Susie, we have been talking a lot about this. It's like, how can we open possibilities for new thinking? Like, I think both of us are very worried. We know that we are in this system that is totally like controlled by these forces of power. But ours like a psychic exorcism, I think. Just opening these possibilities and these words and just amplifying our organic technologies of thinking. Like also that our experience at CERN was, I think it's very important to understand that first come the speculation, the idea, and then come with time, it comes the confirmation, the money for building the technology. So I think we are working in this kind of energetic, psychological space where we project possibilities. And that's the idea, more than proposing like an innocent, perfect future that I don't think is the idea. It's more like sitting down and like changing our inner codes. That's as far as I see it.
Susie, you also had an experience at CERN. Can you take us through your work there?
So I was working at CERN probably over a 5-year period, and I carried out several projects. The first one was called the Holographic Universe Theory of Art History, which was my own experiment about the idea of art history possibly having always already been an attempt to describe the holographic nature of reality, which I tested out using a similar methodology that the Large Hadron Collider at CERN uses, in the sense that the Large Hadron Collider accelerates particles at high speed in a loop to test their theories. And my experiment used 2,500 chronological images from art history, fast-forwarded in a video loop to test my theory, and it was a video projection. And during that time, I interviewed a lot of scientists about the holographic universe theory and their relationship with my theory. And that was very interesting because I found that the older scientists were, the theoretical physicists were extremely interested in things beyond particle physics, which the younger ones were not. And they thought more like an artist did, in the sense that as an artist, you don't have boundaries like people with regular jobs. You're not constrained in any way at all. You can think anything you want to think and follow through on it in any way that's possible to you. And then skipping forward, really, my final project at CERN was where I wanted to put the scientists in the position of being science fiction writers, but I wasn't going to be able to tell them that at the beginning. So what I did is I set up workshops where I gave them all a piece of paper and I talked them through a series of questions and got them to write down the answers in different parts of the piece of paper. And at the end of the workshop, when they'd written down the names of 4 people, 4 occupations, a major scientific breakthrough that would change the future of the planet, the outcomes of that major scientific breakthrough for the planet and the outcomes for those 4 people, and 4 dreams of those individual people, and a list of locations and events and 4 dates. When they'd finished writing all that down on a piece of paper, I asked them what they thought they'd done. And they said, oh, it's just something for your project. And I said, no, this is a plot diagram for a science fiction short story that you're about to write. At which point they, more or less all of them did a double take and got really excited and went away and wrote the most amazing science fiction short stories, which are about to be published in this book, 10 Years Celebrating Arts at CERN.
You've talked recently about your experience with ChatGPT. So tell us, is AI-generated content going to be the end of art as we know it?
I'll just give you one example, because I think it's a huge area at the moment, and it's not just about art; it's about everything. So, I mean, in terms of artificial intelligence, but so we're at a particular moment now before what is going to be like a really increased evolution, and we don't know what's going to happen. And there's obviously a lot of ethical issues out there. But in terms of my own personal experience, what I've actually gained from it, it's like having some imaginary kind of like pals, so art pals. So if you, let's say I'm working on a project, I could say to myself, I wonder what GPT-3 or 4 or whatever would do. And I find it enjoyable to put in a few key words of, let's say, what might be the title of one of my works, which is quite like out there, which is a title which is not like in our everyday language, and which doesn't necessarily have reference points, specific ones, already existing in like a Google database, and see what it comes up with. And sometimes it comes up with pretty amazing visual equivalents. And I look at them and I go, that's really quite stunning, but it'll probably look better on the cover of a science fiction book. I'm probably not going to really have anything to do with it, but it's like an alternative version in a way.
That was Suzanne Treister and Patricia Dominguez talking with Niall Kitson. If you'd like to know more about them or betafestival.ie, details are in the show notes.
This is Tech Radio with Dusty Rhodes and Niall Kitson.
And that's it for our show this week. Do check out some of the other stories we didn't manage to include on the podcast, but are online for you, including...
Yeah, we're looking at why some iPhone 16 users are not happy over the iOS 18 update. A computing project from Manus looking at DNA as a medium for storing information has scored some funding from Europe. And why big businesses are paying more attention to their chief information security officers.
You'll find all of those stories and more online at techcentral.ie. We're back again next Friday with a brand new show online and on RT Radio 1 Extra, of course. And do remember, please share our podcast with a friend. Just tell them to look up Tech Radio Ireland on Apple, Spotify, or now also on YouTube. Until next time, from myself, Dusty Rhodes, and Niall Kitson, have a great bank holiday weekend. Talk to you next week.
Remember, you can get the latest Irish tech news with hourly updates, daily newsletters, and more at our website, techcentral.ie. Share the knowledge and invite a friend to listen. Search Apple, Spotify, or YouTube for Tech Radio Ireland, or listen with RTE Radio 1 Extra. Tech Radio is produced by dustpod.io for techcentral.ie. From me, Artemis, live long and prosper.